Social justice and linguistic human rights in dual language programs. During this video, I will talk about the article selected for the reading, but I will also bring it into the Colombian context. First of all, it is important to take a look at the different moments in history in which bilingual programs or dual language programs has been dealt. First, bilinguophobia. Second, English only in 90s to present. Third, no child left behind regulations. Fourth, the assessment of bilingual dual language programs. And fifth, challenges, poverty and democracy. All these aspects has been taught in the United States, but I will bring it into the Colombian context. First, bilinguophobia. It is the excessive fear of bilingualism, biliteracy, and bilingual communities, and any educational approach for promoting the acquisition and use of the non-dominant languages. This is not the case of Colombia, in which they don't want to learn different languages, but also for the indigenous parts and indigenous groups. It is difficult for them to learn a language they don't want to learn because they have to give up to their own language. Second, English only in 90s to present. Even though it hasn't been the case in Colombia, during and after World War I, students who wished to study a modern foreign language were allowed only to learn how to read, but not to speak or understand its spoken form, because then they will be suspected of an American activities. And that is the reason why nowadays they won't allow Mexican people or Latinos into their territory, because they see bilingualism as something bad, as is a foreign language is a handicap, as that is something that we as teachers need to change in our students' minds. Third, the No Child Left Behind regulations. This law has been the most ominous and democratic intrusion into public education in American history, because it has demanded teachers to learn about their students and their cultural backgrounds. In fact, researchers agree that early childhood assessments need to be culturally and linguistically appropriate. Given that a child's home language is a crucial foundation for cognitive development, learning about the world and emerging literacy, it only teaches us as teachers that we need to learn about our students, not only about the people who are sitting in front of us, but also about their background. Where do they come from? What are their customs, their beliefs, so that we can make them part of the group. Fourth, the assessment of bilingual or dual language programs. As Nieto in 2008 stated, an effective pedagogy does not include teaching subject areas in another language, but instead finding ways to use the language, culture, and experiences of students meaningfully in their education, so that students can actually learn about this second language, but in a real context, not only to learn a different language through different contexts. So this is a really good tip for us as teachers. Instead of finding ways to use the language, we must find ways to use the language, the culture, and all the experiences of students, so that they can relate the language, the target language, with their own language and with their own experiences. And fifth, the challenges, poverty and democracy. It is well known that not all the money provided for education in Colombia is given for education, indeed. What the Colombian context and the Colombian education needs to change is that those current school policies need to be re-examined. Those that build on students' diversity need to be strengthened, while those that focus on differences and deficits must be eliminated. Now we will talk about the bilingual and dual language programs and how they should be structured, and how they will be followed by the teachers and by the students in the classroom. First, the source of bilingualism. Teachers need to take into account all the different students they have. and they also learn in a different way. School leaders must be cognizant of the implementation of a strategic instructional plan that addresses the diverse needs of all students. As the image says, fair isn't everybody getting the same thing. Fair is everybody getting what they need in order to be successful. So we need to take into account all the different ways in which our students learn and create a safe environment and full of knowledge environment in which students can learn effectively. Now, the goals of dual language program. One of the most important goals is to produce students that are bilingual, bicultural, and biliterate. As teachers, we need to teach students not only language, not only content, and not only theory, but there's our responsibility and necessity to teach values, to teach beliefs, as for instance, respect for diversity, ethnicity, religions, and social class background. In this way, at the end of the process, students won't be not only bilingual, but also bicultural and biliterate. Now, the benefits of bilingualism. It is divided into 5 different ones, and the most important. They have to be with educational, cognitive, sociocultural, economic, and global. First, educational. Bilingualism enables all students from all levels, social levels, even if they're rich or poor, young or old, to acquire high levels of proficiency, not only in their L1 but also in their L2. And in a globalized world in which we live right now, it is important to speak more than one language. Second, cognitive. In terms of cognition, bilingual students are more creative and problem solving. They get to know the language in a different level. They can know and differentiate its different sounds, words, and grammar. And thus, when they will be in college or university, they will be able to facilitate decoding academic language, among other benefits. Sociocultural. It is another benefit of the students being bilingual, because they can communicate with other people from other parts of the world only through English. They can expand their knowledge, they can get to know different places only knowing a different language. And also their cultural awareness raises in a high level. They are able to respect the values, social customs, and ways of viewing the world of speakers of other languages and their communities. Economic. There are more job opportunities for these students because, as I mentioned before, a lot of companies look for people who know a different language. They are valued resources that can contribute to the nation's economic relations. And finally, global. This one has to do with a different message. It will be the ability for a bilingual person to give a peace message for the world. In a world that has been under recent terrorist attacks, a bilingual person is only a vehicle to negotiate and to construct or build a different world full of peace, respect, and equity. Now, the cognitive benefits of dual language programs. Bilingual students are one step forward in training their own minds, in training their own knowledge, because they have been exposed to a different language. So that enables them to analyze and to interpret in a different level. However, there's a drawback in this program, which is the administration is fearful sometimes. and is that not only teachers, no matter how hard teachers want to change, it doesn't matter how hard teachers want to change their classroom and their pedagogy, but some administrators just don't want to go the tough way. They want the easy thing and the old way, the old-fashioned way, in which they can keep things as normal as possible. Teaching and learning in a bilingual program. It is important to take into account not only the end of the process, but what students are to learn, how they're going to learn it, and the level of expectation. It's more important the process than the result. And that's what we should do as teachers, to focus on the process and on the things that we can improve during the process rather than in the end or the result of the process. It is very, very important to adjust language instruction. Teaching in a bilingual program, it's a challenge not only for students but also for teachers, because as part of culturally responsive instruction, teachers are in the necessity to explore with their classes the ways in which students and their families use literacy at home and in the community, so that they can use that knowledge and that information gathered to teach effectively, to teach what they really need to learn, and not only random clues and random information about the target language. Some of the strategies that work in a bilingual classroom: immersion, demonstrations of how texts are constructed and used, teaching and learning time are needed. The classrooms should be furnished with tables or teams of 4. But why 4? Because it enables students to work cooperatively with other students, to share ideas, not to be by themselves but to support their work in the classroom. Also, variety of texts. They don't want to see the same text, different classes. They want to see different things, new things they can learn. Also, reading strategies, teacher mediation and peer support. It is really important to show them that they can count on their classmates, on their teacher. Literacy development, risk-taking. And they also be encouraged to argue, to make mistakes, to self-correct. It's part of the process, not the result. It is also important to regulate how we speak, how we give them the information, how we teach them. So our voice needs to be slower but natural. Clear enunciation and pronunciation of words so they can understand it better. Simpler and shorter sentences. Frequent communication strategies, verbal emphasis on writing new vocabulary. And finally, we can make use of a learning log. What is a learning log? It helps students and helps teachers to make the information more understandable. So it can help students to expand the use of vocabulary instruction. So, for example, words and definitions, assignments, personal goals and objectives, words students hear or read and want to learn, summaries of what they have read, records of errors, the reasons they think they are making those errors, strategies that are helping them to learn the content, so they can see in real life how they can improve and also what are all their successes. Well, that was everything. I hope you have liked it, and I hope you can use some of these advices in bilingual education to improve your classes and to use in your teaching practice.